Right, let's take that as a point of departure. Vice President Cheney, I'm going to come to you with a core question in respect of the whole of this. Our objective is to look at the world order in 2030, a decade out. None of us are prophets. None of us can see with certainty, at best through a glass darkly. But the key question, it seems, on the basis of all of the discussions at this forum and many discussions outside of it, are whether it is likely that Washington and Beijing will find a collective understanding of what a rules-based international order might look like in the future. Everyone knows here, you know better than most, that the rules-based international order by which we've lived since 1945 was crafted largely under the influence of the United States at Bretton Woods and subsequently at San Francisco, and shaped the world all the way up to 1991, and the administration of which you were a major part shaped to a significant degree the world order post-1991. We're now at a point where tectonic plates have moved. The world is not what it was in either of the periods that I've described. China is rising. Graham Allison has written about the Thucydides trap in this particular regard. What's your view on it? You've lived through enough periods. You weren't quite there with Dean Acheson, but very close to it, present at the creation. What is your view about whether or not the two major powers will in fact be able to find one another and craft something which serves the vital interests of the United States on the one hand, accommodates China on the other, and secures peace and stability in the world at large?
Well, that's an easy
I
question.
thought it was, yeah, that's why I gave it to you.
What I'd like to do, I have a friend who's used to work for me in the policy area, who's given a lot of thought to China and Asia, focused on it. But he wrote something recently that I think sort of captures the perspective of a lot of Americans about what's happening. It's not necessarily official policy in that sense, but it's I think it is an effective way for those who want to understand what the concerns are. This is a fairly brief statement that I think my friend may not agree with, but it'll tell what many Americans are thinking. Since the end of the Cold War, U.S. economic policy towards China has been premised on the assumption that expanding trade and investment would have beneficial effects, both on China's external behavior and on the evolution of its domestic economic and political institutions. As it'd be political change that would follow the economic change. That country's deepening relationship with the United States and its broader integration into the global economy would, it was hoped, give it a stake in stability and encourage it to see itself as a responsible stakeholder in the existing international system. As its economy developed, China would move away from state-directed planning and place greater reliance on market mechanisms. Finally, as had happened earlier in Europe and other parts of Asia, so too in China, economic growth and the emergence of a new middle class would give rise to irresistible pressure for liberalizing political reforms. That was the expectation. As has become increasingly clear in recent years, these expectations have not been borne out, nor are they likely to anytime soon. To the contrary, the prevailing trends now appear to be running strongly in the opposite direction. China has grown richer, to be sure. By some estimates, the total size of its economy will soon exceed that of the United States. Far from liberalizing and relaxing its grip, however, in the past decade, the regime in Beijing has become more repressive and more militantly nationalistic. Instead of evolving into a mellow, satisfied status quo power, China has grown more assertive and is using its increasing economic clout and military power to challenge key aspects of the prevailing regional system and the larger international order. Meanwhile, instead of a steadily increasing reliance on market forces, the Chinese party state has continued and, in certain respects, expanded its use of quasi-mercantilist policy tools. In effect, there's the bottom line is that we had hopes for political evolution in China, both in terms of how they operated internationally as well as domestically, but those hopes have not been realized in spite of the significant economic change that we've all observed and welcomed.
Li Chao-ching, I'm going to come to you in a certain sense for a response. But if I may, I'd like to frame it in terms of something that Xi Jinping has articulated in the past and something that I heard from Wang Qishan in Guangdong last week. When China was preparing for the G20 conference in 2016 in Guangzhou, Xi Jinping articulated what has become known in the West as the Four Eyes. And it is, in a certain sense, a response to what Dick Cheney has just said now. The strategy that he articulated was innovate for growth, this is in respect to the global economy, improve global economic and financial governance, construct an open, interconnected world economy, and advance inclusive development by implementing the 2030 agenda. Now, that was what he articulated as the agenda for the G20 conference in 2016. What Wang Qishan said last week in Guangzhou was that the logical objective of progress going forward was to focus on a philosophy of shared benefits, which he described as a search for the common good through harmony without uniformity. What I'm getting at is the rhetoric and the behavior is not always consistent in respect of this. And the question is whether you accept the inevitability of a confrontation or whether within the parameters of your reference to the UN Charter and to the two statements that I've cited from Xi Jinping and Wang Qishan, whether you believe that we can construct a common future for all of mankind.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to answer or to respond to the comment by the former Vice President of the world's superpower, the US. Please believe me, China will never learn from a world superpower. China will never try to be hegemonic. Just now you use the word and some other words, and that has nothing to do with the truth. You are talking about the new China's nationalism. I don't know where did you learn that. Maybe from some American biased journalists. But you are a great politician. You are not a biased journalist, sir. So excuse me for being so candid. China, according to President Xi Jinping's idea, will always have the people at the center. Will always believe in the principle of the people first. The people meaning not only the Chinese people, but also the people of the world at large. In 2013, President Xi Jinping, when paying a state visit to a neighboring country, he proposed for the first time the building of the One Belt, One Road idea. And the method of building this great idea is to learn from each other, to cooperate in the principle of peaceful coexistence and to benefit the results of the building up of the One Belt, One Road. China will never try to be like a superpower, like the United States of America. And I hope our American friends will also know the basic or very simple principle. That is, history is the best teacher. According to what I learned from my American professors at the university, America, of the Northern American continent, used to be a colony of the UK, of the British Empire. And the American people suffered a lot. That's why there was the independence war in 1776. I suppose some American politicians have forgotten their own history. Now people are talking a lot about the trade war between the US and China. They forgot about the trade war with the former rulers, the British colonialists. You forgot what happened in 1776 in Boston. You forgot about the incident of the tea pouring event. And that thing led to the independence war. And after 8 years of fighting, America came into being in 1783. So America has such a history. That's why you developed first. You developed so fast later on. In China, we have a saying, which is, I believe, a truth. That is, a child from a poor family could go far, could do a lot, could be successful. American, you have your forefathers to be ruled, to be exploited, to be bullied by the Western European colonialists. So after you got independence, you developed so fast. You had so many inventions, and so on and so forth. And however, what the pity is, when you became the #1 economy, the #1 military power, you became a student, a learner of your former, boss, the British. You want to bully others. In 1900, you joined the other Western imperialists to invade China. In the 1950s, America took the lead to invade the Korean Peninsula. And you made a lot of trouble in the Middle East and around the Arab world. You tried to sow discord among peace-loving countries. And you didn't keep your promise. Talking about US-China relations, I was quite happy to thank you for you to give me the chance. Remember, sir, 1972 was still not too far away. On the last day, February the 28th, 1972, the first joint communique between our two countries was announced in Shanghai. According to that communique, we simply call it the Shanghai Joint Communique between China and America. The essential sentence in that document is that the American government finds that the people, the Chinese people on the two sides of the Taiwan Straits, all believe there is only one China. All believe that Taiwan is part of China. The American government does not challenge this position. This is a very important sentence in the first joint communique between our two countries. But I'm afraid, sir, have you ever read that? Have you ever read it?
I suspect he has.
Many politicians of America read it, but they forgot it. And they don't keep their promise. They betrayed their forefathers' promise. They continued to interfere into China's internal affairs on the Taiwan question. For instance, you wanted still to sell weapons to Taiwan. For what? Is Taiwan a state, a city, a village of the United States? No, Taiwan is China's Taiwan. Just as about Hong Kong too. Hong Kong is China's Hong Kong. But the European Parliament even passed a so-called, act bill to interfere, to talk at random about our Hong Kong matters. This is ridiculous. This only damages the image of America in front of the world people. So thank you for understanding me, my candidness. I want to be candid. I learned this from my American teachers and my British professors. If you want to be a good person, you have to be candid. So for the future, I only hope we remember one of the rulers of EAU told us, we have to start our future from today, not from tomorrow. I hope all the American politicians will realize the serious and the stupid mistake they already have committed, so that to do something good for the US people as well for people of other countries, including Arab countries. Indeed. Thank you.
Well, as we've said, it was a candid exchange. It was a candid exchange. I think it's delineated very clearly the challenges that we face in respect of the issue going forward. And I've got a feeling that what we ought to do is to take these two grand stalwarts of respectively Chinese and US history and make them the primary negotiators in terms of crafting the new order. Because with this level of directness and openness and frankness, I suspect we can get things onto a better path. Thank you very much, both. I think it was a splendid exchange, and thank you both for your directness and forcefulness. One of the problems about these discussions of Chinese-US relationships is enormous amounts are usually swept under the rug. So your forthright statement from your friend and the equally forthright response, I think, has brought a great deal of color and value to this.